I want to thank everyone for joining us today. I see people are starting to pop in. We have about a minute until we are officially going to get started. This is Collective Wisdom's quarterly webinar series where we have professionals, business consultants, all kind of people that can help entrepreneurs do better. And when I say do better, that could mean from sales to organization to marketing, all kind of ways that we can increase business and better our businesses. So we are lucky today to have Cait McKay. Cait McKay, I actually met Cait through a virtual online networking. I think it was speed networking. Is that correct, Cait?
Yep.
Yep, it was a speed networking event. So those things do work, guys, I promise. So I met Cait. We connected on LinkedIn because you still have to do that kind of stuff. We started to talk. We had a one-on-one on Zoom, and we really thought there were some synergies between what she does and what Collective Wisdom offers entrepreneurs. So that's why she's here today. So thank you, Cait, for being here. For those that don't know what Collective Wisdom does, we are a masterminds program specifically for entrepreneurs. And it's a place where you come and get answers and you get support and you get challenged and you are held accountable. So it's a place where you can come and we help you get out of the weeds of your business so that you can start actually working on your business. And I'm sure you've heard that phrase before. So Cait, I don't want to waste any more time. We have a half an hour and I know you have a jam-packed session for us. So Cait McKay is the founder at Right to Be Relevant, and she specializes in raising self-awareness and self-compassion, and that is all tied into sales, believe it or not. So Cait, I will give it back to you. At the end, everybody watch the chat. I'm going to share a few links with some opportunities that Cait is giving us. And if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A chat, the Q&A button, and I will be manning those for Cait. So Cait, it is all yours.
Thanks, Kathleen. I appreciate it. And thank you everyone who is here right now. Like Kathleen mentioned, I have a lot of info jam-packed into the next 30 minutes. So let's get to it. So in addition to founding Right to Be Relevant, where I help people with their self-awareness and self-compassion, I am also a Myers-Briggs practitioner. So I'm certified to give the Myers-Briggs assessment to individuals and teams. So just for fun, we're not going into all of Myers-Briggs personality type today, but since we are talking about the mental processes and type theory, if you do know your 4-letter personality type, go ahead and put it in the chat. I would love to see and hear some of those responses, Kathleen.
I have an ENFP.
Cool.
That's all I have so far. So come on, guys, don't be shy.
And I'm probably assuming that there's a lot of people who have taken the Myers-Briggs maybe years ago in school, or somebody made you take it at work years ago. That's pretty common to hear.
Cait, we have an ENTP.
ENTP, yep. Awesome. Cool. So like I said, we're not going into your individual personality type today, although if you have another 18 hours, I would love to talk your ear off about that sometime. But our goal today is to basically step into your client's shoes. So better understand the way that your clients are thinking and making decisions so that you can then take that information and be a more intentional communicator. So instead of just blindly either sharing your preferences or, instead of just going into it with no information about who your client is, let's take the information you learn in the next half hour to really understand what are the things that are making my clients tick? What type of information are they looking for from me? So when you have that information, you're more equipped to communicate with them, right? So the Myers-Briggs preferences, there's 8 of them, but today we're just focusing on these middle 2 rows. So sensing and intuition, thinking and feeling. And this is all based on the theory of psychological type. It's actually Swiss psychologist Carl Jung's theory of psychological type. So Carl Jung noticed that people are not behaving randomly. Their behaviors are actually the result of these different types, these very valid and equally good differences in the way people are functioning mentally. So he said that when people's minds are active, they're either doing one of two things. They're either taking in information and gathering information, or they're making a decision and coming to a conclusion. So it's kind of this taking in information. What are people seeing? What are they noticing? And then what are they doing with it? So again, for today's purposes, we're focusing on these middle two rows. So like someone in the chat said, they prefer ENTP, and there was a ENFP. So today we're just focusing on those middle two letters. So the S or the N, sensing or intuition, or the thinking and feeling. So as we go through these, keep in mind our goal, right? So we're trying to take a step into our client's shoes and really get to know and get to understand how are they thinking, what matters to them, so that you can then take that information and give them what they want to hear, basically, and flex your communication to make sense for them. All right, so let's start with sensing and intuition, that first mental process. So sensing and intuition, S or N, is telling us, how does your client take in information? What information are they seeking from you? What are they relying on? What type of information is important to them and what's not important to them? And then also, what types of things do they tend to notice or not notice? So the sensing, let's start with sensing. The sensing is really the nuts and bolts type of person. So this is the person that wants the facts, the concrete realities of the situation. So give me the who, what, when, right? So give me the specifics. That's the sensing person. Now let's go to the intuition person. This person is more oriented to the possibilities and the future. So this person is more of a big picture, how is this going to impact me in the long run type of person. So I wanted to share a couple of thoughts on how you can tailor to this sensing person and to this intuition person. And really, I love to present this information, then I would love to open it up for questions in the chat, or if you want to, put your question in the chat and then we can kind of talk these through. So sensing, intuition, sensing, this person really wants the facts, right? So this person wants to understand, why do I need your service right now? Why does this matter to me right now? This person needs the whatever you're doing for them, they need to know concrete details. This person would love to have a tangible outcome. So if your product or service is tangible, show that to them and share that with them. They are also motivated by past experience and data. So this person is really going to be energized by seeing some case studies from you, or some type of example of how you have helped someone in the past, so that they can connect, okay, what does that mean for me? Now let's scoot over to intuition. So this person is really connected to the why. So if you're talking to someone who prefers intuition, they want to know, okay, how is this going to impact me in the long run? And why should I care? What's the why behind it all? This person might be more open to abstract possibilities as opposed to a concrete number you could enter in a spreadsheet or something you could hold in your hands. This person is energized by the transformation that working with you could bring, and also potential doors that working with you could open. So maybe those indirect benefits. Any thoughts or question on that so far?
Nope, we don't have anything listed yet, but feel free, everybody, to chime in and I'll let Cait know what your thoughts are.
So I'll give you an example of how this information, sensing and intuition alone has helped me. So as a coach, whoops, as a coach working with people, that outcome that I'm, offering to people is not something that you can hold in your hands or see or feel. So I'm offering, waking up in the morning and feeling good about your life. I'm offering more self-awareness. So a challenge for me as an entrepreneur is to make my outcome that I'm offering them concrete. So one of the ways that, and that's, let me just add in here, that's really challenging for me as someone who personally prefers intuition. So I'm really an ideas person. I'm very abstract. So when I'm speaking to someone who does have that sensing preference, I know, okay, chill on the big picture abstract, what ifs, could be, should be's, and get concrete. How is this going to help them specifically, make them be able to see it and actually feel it in their life? And for this, I noticed I created an online course last year, and even that had kind of an abstract, I was selling an abstract outcome where people would, feel more self-aware, feel more confident. In order to make it more concrete, I created this workbook to go along with the course. So that's an example of me trying to take this abstract concept and make it more concrete so that those who do prefer sensing and want to see those details can actually see the nuts and bolts of something tangible.
Cait, when you're ready for some questions, let me know because we have two that have come in.
Yeah, let's hear them.
Okay, one is, how about when you are dealing with two clients, partners, one type S and one type N? How can you be everything to everyone?
I love that. And that's a great question. Thanks for asking it. I think, first off, I'll preface answering this question that as an entrepreneur or as a business owner or salesperson, it's important to be true to yourself. So this information isn't necessarily about, totally being a chameleon and just giving people what they want to hear. It's more about getting clarity on what you have to offer and then finding ways to deliver and communicate that in a way that they can hear. So as long as what you're selling or offering them, if you have clarity on that, I think it really is a matter of making sure that you're representing both sensing things and intuition things in your proposal to them. So, and what's the service that that person's offering, if they don't mind sharing?
I believe it is commercial real estate.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I feel like I think it is a matter of just being specific and focusing on the individual that you're talking to at the time. So if you're having a phone call with one partner and you know they're that nuts and bolts bottom line type of person, make sure you're hitting those points. Whereas if you're speaking to both of them, I think it's just important to find a balance to make sure that both of these people are seeing the vision of how you could help them. Um,
Perfect. Do you want the next question or do you want to keep
yeah,
moving? Okay.
yeah, let's do it.
Next question is, what's the best way to determine if your client favors one or the other? Ideal questions to ask them.
Yeah. I think it's really a matter of less about asking them and more about listening and receiving what they're giving you. So, and you can tell when someone is asking the questions like the bottom line people. Let me give you an individual example. Like the sensing person, let's say an S and an N are buying a home. An S is asking questions like, what's the square footage? How much is the house? How many bedrooms, bathrooms? What are the materials in the house? And the N is asking questions like, what will my commute to work be like? What is the projection of what this neighborhood's going to be like in 10 years? I can really picture my family living here. So I think it's really more about listening and hearing, okay, are they really needing these nuts and bolts details, or are they needing to hear the big picture impact and the future possibilities? So to answer the question, I think it's really about listening and really combing through what this person's presenting and what types of things they're asking you.
Great. Anybody else that has any questions, feel free to pass them on and I'll make sure Cait gets to them.
Thanks, Kathleen. All right, so we just went over sensing and intuition. So we talked about how your client is taking in information. So what are the things that are important to them? Now let's talk about what your client is doing with that information, how they're making decisions and coming to conclusions. That would be thinking or feeling. So again, this one is this T or F. We had a T and an F response in the chat. So this T or F is telling you what process are you going through when you're deciding, when you're making a decision. So what information are you relying on to make that decision? What consequences are you considering when you're making a decision? And I think for the purposes of our conversation today, the decision is, should I work with you or not, right? So TF, T, thinking. So this is really the problem solver type of person. So this person is applying logical reasoning and really seeking an objective truth when they're making a decision. This person's focusing on tasks and kind of a critical lens to making the decision, cause and effect reasoning, very analytical in looking at the moving parts and seeing logically, what does this mean? So now let's go over to feeling. The person who prefers feeling is really more focused on the relationship and the individual values applied to the decision. So this decision, when both these people are making a decision, the feeler is almost taking a step into it to see who is impacted by this. How is this decision going to impact my people? It's more of a empathetic driven decision for them. Whereas the T is almost taking a step out and viewing the decision as if they're, almost on the outside looking in through an objective lens. So I think a couple points to note here for T and F. Those who prefer thinking, I think it's really important to help them understand what's the bottom line impact. So logically, what does it make sense for me to work with you? And definitely getting to the point. Helping them see that cause and effect relationship. So if you work with me, this is what's going to happen. And really breaking things down in a logical sense for them. Someone who prefers feeling might be more interested in your client care and building that relationship. I can see it being really impactful to empathize with their situation. So let's say, you're offering a service to someone who is really struggling with COVID, empathizing and really taking a step into their shoes and saying, I really see the problems that you're facing. This is how I can help you. And I think always for the feeling preference to showing them how this is going to help them and their people, either their clients or their internal employees. Any questions on thinking, feeling?
We have a couple more that have come in.
Cool.
Let's make sure I get them all. How do you best sell a very technical, complex set of services to a more N person?
So let's go back. How do we sell a more technical, complex services to this N person? So this N person is really looking at the big picture, long-term ideas. I think if you have a technical service, I think it would be important to remind the N, why is this going to impact the big picture, meaning the long-term vision of your company or the systems and processes. That's another big thing for the N is efficiency and systems and processes. So that high level look at their company. So I think if you have something that's technical and maybe sounds like maybe a little detail oriented, help that N person see in the long run and at a high level, this is what this is going to do for for your team or for your business.
Perfect. Hope that helps. I have a question asking, what is your personality on Myers-Briggs?
Ooh, do you want to put some guesses in the chat?
Go ahead. You guys go ahead and put in some guesses while we'll go to the next question, but see what you think Cait would be. And here's another question. In your opinion, are females more feeling and males more thinking?
That's a good question. And I think our society would say, at a collective level, I think our society does have the expectation for women to be more of that empathetic, compassionate lens, where T is more masculine energy of that logic. To be honest, I don't think it's safe to assume that an individual that you're speaking to does fall in that TF based on their gender identity. But I think if you look at the context of our society, I think it is interesting to take into account what is this person's role. It's definitely, I feel like we could do a whole webinar on that. That is very interesting to look at.
So we do have a guess. We have one letter. Someone thinks that you are definitely an N.
Yeah. And it's funny, like this, I'll be real with you all. I mean, it took me a lot of time to try to get this stuff into practical terms for you all, because I am such an ideas person, right? So I'm really energized by sharing this idea with you, but in terms of making it practical, that is something I have to really, I'm learning how to manually do that.
Some other guesses are coming in. ENFP, ENTF,
Ooh.
and then there's an NF.
Okay, I'm definitely NF, so I'm ENFJ.
Okay.
ENFJ, yep. I think I used to, when I took this back in school, I was ENFP, and I've just recently learned, and then I went to ENTP, and then I think I have found my home in ENFJ. Yeah. And just to clarify on that, I think it's worth mentioning, your type is always there. It's just a matter of how you express it. So in different roles in my life, I've found, I'm getting more, I'm getting rewarded for having this thinking, logical mind. I'm going to do that. But just because I did it more doesn't mean it was my preference. And that took a while to come through.
Good. Well, it seems like some people were close, so good guesses, guys. There's a comment with a question at the end. It says, it seems as though a sensing personality would automatically pair well with a thinker, just as intuitive pairs well with feeling, or is there more crossover than it appears?
I hear you. It's definitely more crossover. So in terms of, it's really important to separate that S, so the first one, this is really like the input, right? So how I'm seeing the world, and this is kind of, I see it as the output, like what am I doing with it, and what's important to me when I'm making my decisions. I do hear you though, when you see the similarities on the two sides, but there are tons of SFs and NTs. I think it's one of the most interesting things, in my opinion, is to share the different combinations. And I'm kind of going off script here, but I think it's worth mentioning. The SF combination, so that sensing person combined with the feeling preference, that's really the person who is great with customer client care, like kind of that, how can I help you right now? So not as interested in the long term, that would be more NF, but how can I help you right now? How can I serve you right now, make you comfortable, help you get what you need right now in this moment? So the present tense is really that S. Whereas the NF combination is more, how can I, help you in the long run? How can I help you make changes that will impact you after this conversation is over? Does that make sense?
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. And I did want to just share a quick story about TF. I was with my soon to be father-in-law, and he prefers tea. And long story short, we thought we were going to run into this car dealership to run this quick errand, and the car dealership messed up, and we were really in a pinch for time. We thought we were going to miss our flight. So I remember just sitting there and it was a little bit of a cringy moment, because this very kind man that was working at the car dealership, he was trying all these F things dealing with a T personality. So he was asking, can I get you all coffee? Can I fill up the gas tank for you? So it was all these like relationship type things, where the T mind was more just, how do we get this problem solved? So I found it interesting. I always think of that story because it's like I was watching it go down, and I was like, ooh, if he just stuck with the logic and what's the task at hand right now, I think that might have gone smoother. Um, but in his mind, he was like, customer service, I need to make him happy, right? But what turns out might have made him happiest would have been fixing the problem.
Yeah, so I mean, this process that you're talking about, just trying to understand how people want the information, is really what's going to make and break some sales that you're trying to make. So those proposals that you're sending over, the way that you're communicating those proposals,
Yeah,
it's very powerful. This kind of information.
I think so too. I think it's definitely a lot of tangible things that you can implement in your sales processes and in your conversations, definitely, that would make a difference.
Now, Cait, you had mentioned that you were going to offer some special offers for our
Yeah,
attendees today. So can you explain that to them?
absolutely. So I offer individual Myers-Briggs interpretations, and it's really important to have that interpretation with a practitioner, because the online courses are not as accurate, and like I said, you can always make up your answers or stuff. So the beauty of the Myers-Briggs interpretation is really in the conversations that we can have together to dig through what your true authentic preferences are. So I did want to share a discount on my one-on-one interpretations if you have any interest in you yourself getting your official Myers-Briggs type. I think it's pretty life-changing information. It was for me personally, at least. So yes, I think Kathleen's putting that in the chat. And then I also wanted to share a big discount for my online course that I created last year. It helps people with their self-awareness, self-compassion, and self-worth. Um, really excited to share that with you. So hopefully you'll take advantage of some of those.
Yep. So I just put those links in the chat. So the first is for that self-study course with Cait's help and Cait's guidance. You have to use that link to get the discounted pricing. And then there's also a link in there and a code. So don't forget about the code for
Mm-hmm.
her online course. If there's any other questions, please send them. We only have a minute or two left. Cait, this stuff is really, really interesting. It doesn't change. It could be 50 years from now, and people still are going to be one of these letters or a couple of these letters, right? So,
Right.
yeah, this is something, it's not a fad. It's not,
Yeah.
something that hasn't been proven. If you can understand not only how you want information, but really start to be an expert on listening, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
and listening to your clients and potential customers, and figuring out how they want information. And there's certain professions you can kind of figure it out. Like, I've
Mm-hmm.
had a client before, they were an engineering firm. I knew how they wanted to be taught LinkedIn. For instance,
Right.
we did a LinkedIn training, so I knew how to teach to them, versus how I've had other clients that are in the creative space, and they're very different. So it
Mm-hmm.
really does help you build that rapport.
Yes.
um, and we're getting some thank you so much,
Yeah.
and we're saying what a great overview. Those of you that are having problems with copying and pasting from the Zoom, it's probably my fault, user error. So I will definitely send these links out to everyone that's attended today as well, in an email following this shortly, just so that you have them. So
Awesome.
Cait, everybody's saying thank you so much. So informative. It's been
Awesome.
interesting. Great job. It's very important stuff. So
Wow. Thank you so
um,
much.
yeah, Cait,
Appreciate
thanks
it.
so much. And just so you guys know, this is being recorded. It will be uploaded into the Collective Wisdom um, YouTube channel. So if you are not following my Facebook page, please do, Collective Wisdom USA, and then also on our YouTube channel. And you can see all these updates and videos. So Cait, thanks again so much. Great
Yes.
information.
Thank
Hope
you
we
so much.
hope we can get some more of your knowledge at a future time.
Yes, that sounds great. I also wanted to add if on righttoberelevant.com, I have a book call button right on my homepage. So I would love to connect with you if you want to reach out and schedule some time to talk more about this stuff. Like I said, I can talk for days about it.
Perfect. All
Thank you
right,
all so much.
okay, stay safe everyone, and thanks for attending.